country that started the AI race, and as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. We're going to work hard, we're going to win it.
It's definitely a race, and the primary competitor in that race is China.
The number one factor that will define whether the United States or China wins this race is whose technology is most broadly adopted in the rest of the world.
The race in the digital realm is also as competitive as ever.
Welcome to GVS Deep Dive. I'm Najma Minhas. Well, it's showtime in Asia. The United States and China are heading into a direct competition at the 21-nation meeting of APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, in South Korea this week. And both are showing up with one message: trust our AI, our artificial intelligence. And this is no longer just a chip race. It's a battle over who gets to define the rules, the reach, and the reward of artificial intelligence. For many of those 21 Asian countries, from Japan to South Korea to Indonesia and Chile, this week is decision time. Do you align with America's best-in-class but closed models built for profit and dominance, or do you join China's expanding open source universe, which promises access, affordability, and global inclusion? Asia is central now to the global AI race. It's home to over 4.5 billion people, more than half the world's population. And AI thrives on data. The more users you have, the more data you have, the better those models are trained. Now, countries like India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines are rapidly digitalizing, and they're offering AI firms a growing customer base and a huge training data sets. Asia is also where the most aggressive growth in AI is happening, in AI deployment. And many of these Asian countries are leapfrogging those old systems and going straight to mobile banking, to e-governance and AI-powered platforms. Now, whether it's smart cities, for example, in Singapore, or in industrial automation, which we are seeing in Vietnam and Thailand, or in education and healthcare that we're seeing in Malaysia and India. Many countries in the region are currently non-aligned, which means they're open to both using Chinese or United States AI. The outcome here could tilt the global standard towards one model, which is the closed proprietary model that we're seeing in the United States, versus the open source model in China. From Indonesia, Malaysia to Pakistan, more governments are choosing the Chinese AI tools. And that's not just because they're more affordable, but because they are open. They enable these governments to put their own stamp or their imprint on the language models that they use. Countries don't just want to get locked into the Western tech monopolies that we saw from the 2000 years up till the last 2025 year. Now, if you stay with me to the end, you'll understand why China is winning this AI war, despite all the pressure that the United States is putting on the country. China is ramping up efforts to build a domestic artificial intelligence ecosystem that can function without Western technology, as it readies itself for this long, protracted technological conflict that's going to happen with the United States, as both countries try and take the primacy in this particular sector. Washington has been trying to slow Chinese AI progress through those export controls and other restrictions that we've seen, which limits Chinese access to US capital, talent, and advanced US technologies, whether it's the Cadence system or the ASML system in Netherlands or the NVIDIA chips. Now, to some extent, those restrictions are working. What they did do is slow down China's progress, but China's fighting back with expanding efforts to become much more self-sufficient in AI. And it's a push that could ultimately make it much less vulnerable to United States pressure if it succeeds. Although Chinese chips are still less capable overall than American products. Huawei Technologies and other companies have been narrowing that gap by clustering more chips together, which has enabled them to boost their performance. China's also released an AI global governance plan recently at the World Artificial Intelligence Conference, which is held every year annually in Shanghai. This time round, the Chinese asked for establishing an international open source community through which AI models can be freely deployed and improved by those using these models. Now, this reflects a very different approach to AI, where China's ambition is to set a more inclusive global standard for AI, which undermines that of the United States approach, where the leading models there, such as OpenAI, are not open source, and they're very much focused on generating profits only to come back to United States companies and to keep that technology in the house, as they've done in the past as well. The Chinese premier at this conference said that China would actively promote the development of open source AI, adding that Beijing was willing to share advances with other countries, particularly developing countries in the global south. Now, AI has become the new nuclear race in the 21st century between the two superpowers, China and the United States. China's aiming to turbocharge its AI capabilities, including rapid expansions in power generation and skills training. Billions of dollars in spending is estimated will be done by Chinese state-owned enterprises, by private companies, and by Chinese local governments. The United States is running its own version of that race, and President Trump, at a recent forum in Washington, D.C., with industry leaders, signed executive orders which were aimed at sending US AI technology abroad. And his key strategy, well, it's to use funding agencies like the United States Export-Import Bank and the International Development Finance Corporation to underwrite AI deals, just like they did with planes and physical goods in the past. President Trump has been convinced by NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang that the United States needs to get the American ecosystem out to the world and bring the world onto it as the way, for example, Microsoft or Apple software is used throughout the world as a global standard. And this is the reason why he was able to get President Trump to revoke the ban on the H20 chip exports that was placed earlier in April. While the turnaround has fueled criticism from national security hawks, who are worried about China getting access to the H20 chips again and being able to take that final leap into a situation in which they don't need help from the Americans again. Trump's AI strategy, however, is pure geopolitics, and the stakes obviously are massive. AI is going to shape economies, it's going to shape armies and alliances, and whichever superpower leads AI, it will lead the world, both in future global influence and in national security. And the administration is taking steps to try to preserve the US's lead, and it recently announced an AI action plan, which aims to slash red tape and make it easier for technology companies to build data centers needed to train these AI models across the country. Earlier this year at the White House, OpenAI and Japan's SoftBank unveiled a $500 billion deal, which would be building new AI data centers throughout the United States. But the deal so far, we've seen that the project has faced major delays due to a number of factors. However, the United States' success in this field currently is very dubious. And that's because there is massive amounts of electricity that's going to be required to run these data centers. These data centers do not exist right now in the United States. Tons of money is going to need to go into developing them, and tons of money is going to be needed for that infrastructure to enable the running of these data centers. The United States has a massively outdated electrical grid system, and Trump's rollback of that recent initiative of the renewable energy incentives that the Biden administration gave has left the United States without the power that's going to be needed to train the own AI system that they want in these data centers. China, by contrast, is spending over $564 billion just on grid construction projects in the next 5 years up to 2030. This is an increase of more than 40% from the previous 5 years. China currently has around 2.5 times as much power generation capacity as the United States already. And this is a disparity that's projected to grow much larger in the next 5 years, despite the United States making some attempt to expand its power generation. Looking at the other key factor that's needed to expedite the AI revolution: people. China has approved more than 600 colleges to set up degree programs in AI. And this is up from 35 universities which had these kind of programs in 2019. Beijing has also announced that primary and secondary schools will all begin mandatory AI lessons for all students starting this September in 2025. By contrast, the United States has very few universities that offer AI degree programs, although those that do currently dominate all rankings for computer and information sciences. In April, President Trump also signed an executive order which mandated AI education and learning opportunities for American youth, American young children. But last month, he also abolished the Federal Department of Education. So much for having an AI educational strategy for the country overall. China's efforts have enabled it to develop a robust pipeline of homegrown talent. And according to a recent study done by the Hoover Institute and Stanford University, when they looked at over 200 authors that were involved in DeepSeek's papers between 2024 and February 2025, they found that more than half of them had never left China. They never left China for work. They'd never left China for schooling. They were all indigenous Chinese schooled young people who'd worked on DeepSeek. Huawei itself has published several papers this year detailing how its own researchers have used homegrown chips to build large language models without relying on American technology. US officials are concerned that Chinese companies like Huawei Technologies will gain popularity in other countries if American competitors are present, which is what occurred during the telecom revolution when 5G telecom infrastructure was being set up across the world. Huawei and ZTE were the primary sources that people went to, most of it due to the fact that the technology was advanced and much faster and much cheaper in those countries from these two companies in particular. Now the Americans have tried to weigh up that potential of if you give the chips to the Chinese versus if you don't give your AI infrastructure to the world because you're trying to prevent the Chinese from getting it, what is the cost you're going to have? And they've decided that the risk of sharing these US chips and software with nations will right now have to err on the side of giving it out to more people so that their own global standards can be imposed or can be set up across the world. The launch of DeepSeek earlier this year in January really rattled many US lawmakers. They were not expecting the Chinese to be anywhere on that AI language model scale. And when it released this impressive model using those efficiency gains that really cut the cost, many countries then started adopting DeepSeek's products and models from other Chinese companies as well, such as the Alibaba Group, who have their own Qwen model as well. And China's putting a priority on these open source models that the rest of the world can use. And it is a strategy that worries the United States because it's going to undercut the US, whose best models like OpenAI are private. Now, in a world where affordability and access do matter more than secrecy, the strategy is winning friends very fast. A lot of countries are moving over to that Chinese DeepSeek model, language model type, models that are coming out of China. And that's why now that the United States has come up with the strategy of the export bank model, it's going to help finance these countries that are poor to buy their models the way they always did it in the past, whether it was to buy their planes or to buy other infrastructure goods from the United States. China's biggest AI challenge is going to be overcoming its difficulty in sourcing the world's most advanced AI chips. Washington, as we know, has cut off China from most of NVIDIA's high-end models. They just have the H20 now, which has just been given back to them. And as well as this, it's been cut off from many of those advanced machine tools which are used to make those cutting-edge chips. And the restrictions on these, many experts believe, will still hold China back, despite the fact that China is doing a huge amount to overcome those limitations. Huawei, for example, is helping to spearhead efforts to navigate these restrictions. And there are discussions that Huawei is leading something what is called the Project Spare Tire, along with 2,000 other enterprises, to help China's semiconductor sector achieve a self-sufficiency rate of 70% by 2028. And increasingly, the company has been able to bundle together the best chips it can produce to match the performance of some of these American computing systems. And that is helping local companies reach some of the same computing goals as the United States, such as training those state-of-art technology, generative AI models. Though those models, the Chinese models, consume much more power than the United States chips do. Now, do check out my earlier vlog on this issue. I've done a couple. I've put the link also into the description as well, so do check those out. US researchers, SemiAnalysis, recently reported that one such of these Huawei clusters, which connects 384 of its Ascend chips, remember those 920 and the 910B Ascend chips? Well, it uses 384 of those, puts them together, and it's able to outperform NVIDIA's flagship system, which has 72 graphic processing units on some of the metrics that they measured. Morgan Stanley analysts forecast that China will have 82% of AI chips, which is going to be using domestic AI chips by 2027, and this is up from 34% last year in 2024. And China's government's played a massive, hugely important role in funding these new chip initiatives and other projects. In July, the local government in Shenzhen, for example, where Huawei is based, said that it was going to raise around $700 million to invest in AI structure to strengthen an independent and controllable semiconductor supply chain. Chinese financial institutions, state-owned companies, and government agencies have all moved towards using Chinese-made AI models, and this includes DeepSeek and Alibaba's Qwen. And that has fueled a lot of demand for homegrown AI technologies, and it's fostered domestic supply chains as well. At that Shanghai conference where the Chinese premier spoke, which was organized by the Chinese government, it had over 800 companies there. And most of the Chinese researchers present talked about how the impact of the US export controls wasn't affecting them as much as the United States thought it would affect them. And they compared notes on how they were focusing on overcoming these bottlenecks through designing much better models and using better engineering techniques. Exactly the fear that Jensen Huang referred to when he said the only thing you're going to achieve is that the Chinese are going to find a workaround how to deal with this, and we're going to lose the market by them doing this. And it was this fear of losing the Chinese market as well as the other Asian markets that would buy these cheaper Chinese products that the United States decided to give more chips and to focus on selling American products outside the country. And that's the reason why they removed the staggered chip selling initiative that Biden administration had also introduced. And it is believed that the strategy by Chinese companies to give users free access to modify and deploy their AI models, this open source approach, has boosted the deployment and adoption of Chinese models globally. Now, while the world's best large language models are probably still American, potentially, but the best model that everyone can use free is definitely Chinese, and it's almost on par with the American model when you look at different ratings. According to the benchmark provider Artificial Analysis, the overall performance of China's best open weight model has surpassed that of the American OpenAI champion since November. In recent months, a flurry of Chinese companies have flooded the market with open source models, many of which are claiming that they're surpassing DeepSeek as well. While OpenAI's Sam Altman has said that his company has been pushing back the release of its latest open source model, ChatGPT 5, indefinitely because they're still testing out those safety features. Now, in the 21st century AI arms race that we're having right now, the question isn't just who wins, it's who defines the playing field. Will it be the United States with these elite tools, closed systems, and global deals, or China with open models, massive talent, and a self-sufficient machine? Do share with me your thoughts, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.